Why do some people rise from the ashes while others sink deeper into despair? Why do some keep blaming the world while others silently turn their pain into power? This video isn't just motivation, it's a blueprint. A raw, honest path from victimhood to inner strength. If you're tired of your own excuses, if you're sick of feeling weak, lost, and unheard, then this is for you. We'll dive into the mindset of winners, the habits that forge resilience, and the ancient philosophy that turns suffering into growth. Watch this video to the end. It might not change the world, but it can change your life. Because your power is not gone. It's just been silent. Until now. Being a victim is not a label, it's a habit. A way of thinking. A way of living where you constantly feel the world is against you and you're always one step away from collapsing. Victimhood whispers, they don't understand me, nothing ever works out for me, I'm just unlucky. And the more you repeat it, the more powerless you become. But here's the truth, no one is coming to save you. The world isn't fair and no one owes you rescue. The shift from victim to victor doesn't start with success, it starts with a decision. A brutal, silent, private decision to stop being at the mercy of life. It begins when you look in the mirror and say, yes, I've been hurt. I've been betrayed, rejected, humiliated. But I'm done letting that define me. That's the moment your inner fire starts to flicker. Not because things get easier, but because you stop running. Every strong person you admire? They had a breaking point and instead of collapsing, they chose to rise. Not because it was easy, but because staying weak became unbearable. The power you seek isn't waiting for the perfect moment. It's already inside you, buried under years of excuses and pain. You don't need more motivation, you need a reason to say enough. The journey from victim to victor begins with one thought: I refuse to live on autopilot. Most people aren't really living, they're existing. Wake up, go to work, complain, scroll endlessly, repeat. But the moment you decide to wake up inside, everything changes. A victor isn't someone with perfect circumstances. A victor is someone who finally said, I'm done sleepwalking through life. That decision sparks awareness. You begin to notice your own thoughts, your patterns, your habits. You stop being a background character in your own story and step into the lead role. It's terrifying because now you're responsible. You can't blame your parents, your job, your city, your childhood. You realize no one's coming and no one's stopping you either. That's the paradox of power. The same truth that once made you feel small suddenly makes you limitless. You have nothing, but also you can become anything. And that shift, that fire, that clarity, it starts with one choice. One sentence, this ends with me. It doesn't matter if you're broke, broken, alone, or unprepared. The moment you choose to stop being a victim, the path begins to form beneath your feet. Not because life changes, but because you do. Victims always search for someone to blame. Their parents, their partner, the system, God, the weather. Anything that lets them avoid one brutal truth: I let this happen. Taking responsibility is painful because it means facing yourself without a filter. But it's also the first taste of real freedom. A victim waits to be rescued. A victor rescues themselves. They stop waiting for signs, for permission, for the perfect plan. They act. That's power. Quiet, unshakable, cell-phone power. They say, yes, life hurt me. Yes, I've been through hell. But I decide what happens next. That's what separates the lost from the unstoppable. A victim needs the world to validate them. A victor becomes someone they respect. There's no applause. No dramatic music. Just choices. Real ones. For example, two people lose their job. One crumbles, blames the economy, numbs out on social media. The other makes a list, updates their resume, starts learning a new skill. Same situation. Two responses. One sinks. One rises. And what's the difference? Ownership. No one is saying it's your fault. But it is your responsibility. You don't choose the storm, but you choose how to face it. That's what makes you powerful. One of the most seductive traps for a victim is self-pity. It feels warm, safe, even comforting, like a heavy blanket on a cold night. You tell yourself, I've been through so much, I deserve to rest. But that rest turns into rot. Self-pity is a drug. It numbs your hunger to change. It justifies your stagnation. And worst of all, it keeps you small. A victor feels pain too, don't get it twisted. But instead of drowning in it, they use it. They turn pain into purpose. They ask, how can I turn this into fuel? That shift changes everything. Victims want to be comforted. Victors want to grow. For example, someone gets dumped. A victim clings to the story, relives the betrayal, builds an identity around being hurt. A victor hits the gym, dives into learning, cleans their space, rewrites their routine. Not for revenge, for rebirth. Self-pity whispers, it's not fair. Strength replies, it doesn't matter, I rise anyway. And the moment you stop using your pain as a prison and start using it as a path, that's the moment you take your life back. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It just shows up every day and builds. Discipline is the backbone of every victor. And it's exactly where most victims fail. A victim lives by emotion. I don't feel like it today. I'm tired. I'll start tomorrow. But winners? Winners act despite emotion. They know discipline isn't about motivation, it's about decision. It's the mental muscle that grows every time you choose what's right over what's easy. And yes, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. You'll want to quit. But every time you don't, you win. Victims wait for the mood to be right. Victors create the mood through action. Discipline means setting your alarm and actually getting up. It means doing the workout when you're sore, reading the book when you're tired, saying no when your old self would say yes. It's not sexy. No one claps. But it builds. It builds respect, confidence, power. Without it, you fall back into chaos. With it, you become unstoppable. For example, someone wants to change their life. They talk about it. They dream about it. But days go by, nothing changes. Why? No discipline. Another person writes down a plan, sets clear goals, and follows through even when no one's watching. Guess who transforms? Discipline isn't a prison. It's freedom. The freedom to become who you were meant to be. Along the path, doubt will come. It always does. That little voice creeps in. What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? What if it's all a waste of time? Victims listen to that voice and obey. They back down. They wait. They retreat. But victors? They hear it and keep going. The difference isn't fear. It's response. Every strong person has felt insecure, afraid, lost. But they moved forward anyway. They didn't need certainty, just courage. Stoic philosophers taught that fear is not the enemy, it's the compass. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Fear shows you where your growth lies. If something scares you, that's exactly where you must go. The victim asks, what if I fall? The victor answers, what if I fly? Yes, there will be failures. Yes, you'll get bruised. But each scar becomes proof that you tried and that you're alive. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall over and over. But they don't quit. They don't say, maybe walking's not for me. No, they keep going. Because deep down, they know they were made to walk. So are you. You were made to rise. Winners don't whine. That may sound harsh, but it's a universal truth. Victims waste energy complaining about the weather, about people, about timing, about how life isn't fair. And every complaint drains power. Every time you speak from a place of helplessness, you reinforce the idea that you have none. But victors? They don't waste breath. They build. They don't talk about how hard it is, they show up anyway. This doesn't mean they don't feel pain. It means they don't let pain turn into a story that keeps them stuck. There's a difference between expressing emotion and feeding weakness. For example, someone's struggling financially. The victim blames the system, their boss, inflation, and drowns in bitterness. The victor sits down, analyzes, learns about money, adjusts their lifestyle, takes a second job if needed. They don't wait for mercy, they take back control. Every complaint is a fork in the road. Speak it and you stay where you are. Silence it and you step forward. Stoics believed in focusing only on what you can control. Complaining solves nothing. Action does. Victors are too busy building a new life to waste time weeping over the old one. No one is coming to do it for you. That truth hits hard, but it's liberating. Victims live in the fantasy that someone, someday, will notice their pain and fix everything. A mentor, a partner, a miracle. But that's a lie dressed as hope. Victors wake up from that illusion. They stop wishing and they start working. They realize the only hands that can pull them out of the pit are their own. No money? They learn to budget, to hustle, to create. No support? They build resilience. No knowledge? They start reading, asking, failing, and trying again. That's power not in what you have, but in what you become. Victims think someone owes them a better life. Victors know that no one owes them anything. And that's what makes them free. Because if no one owes you, no one limits you either. There are people who grew up with nothing, poverty, violence, abandonment, and still made it. Not because they were lucky, but because they stopped waiting. They moved. That movement, shaky, uncertain, imperfect, is what builds momentum. You don't need the perfect setup. You need one choice: start where you are. No more waiting. No more wishing. It's on you now. And that's exactly why you'll win. Victims live in the past. Their minds replay old wounds like broken records. If only I had, they shouldn't have, I'll never forget what they did. But the past is over and it's dragging them with it. They build their identity around pain, and every day becomes a repetition of what already hurt. But victors? They respect the past, but they don't live there. They extract the lesson and leave the rest behind. Because they understand a simple truth: if you drive while staring in the rearview mirror, you crash. Life moves forward and so must you. For example, two people go through heartbreak. One clings to every memory, stalks their ex online, wallows in loss. The other takes the hit, grieves, then reinvents themselves. New habits, new goals, a cleaner mind. And while one sinks deeper, the other starts to shine. The difference? Direction. Victims go in circles. Victors move ahead. You can't change what happened, but you can change what it means and what comes next. Letting go isn't weakness. It's the ultimate power move. Not for them, for you. Because healing isn't forgetting. It's choosing to live fully without carrying dead weight. You will face loneliness on this path. That's not a flaw, it's a feature. Victims often surround themselves with other victims. They bond over pain, over blame, over how life is unfair. It feels like connection, but it's really a cage. Everyone holding each other down, afraid that someone might actually rise. But victors? They often walk alone. Not because they want to, but because growth creates distance. When you stop complaining, stop playing small, stop living for approval, people get uncomfortable. They'll say you've changed. And you have. You've outgrown the drama, the excuses, the emotional dependency. That's a good thing. Let them go. Stoic wisdom teaches us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Victory isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like spending Friday night alone, planning your next move. Sometimes it's eating better while others laugh. Or saying no when everyone else says yes. You will be misunderstood, but better misunderstood and rising than fully accepted and stuck. Learn to walk alone and you'll never fear being left behind again. That's when you stop following and start leading. The Stoics said, you may not control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. That idea alone separates victims from victors. You can't stop every storm, every betrayal, every loss. Life will hit you hard, but what defines you isn't the hit. It's what you do next. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten, discarded, and became one of the most respected philosophers in history. Why? Because he realized that freedom starts in the mind. Not in comfort, not in circumstances, but in how you respond. A victim says, this isn't fair. A victor says, this is fuel. They don't crumble when things go wrong, they transform. Every setback becomes a stepping stone. Every failure, a forge. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest emperors, wrote in his journal, the obstacle on the path becomes the path. That's not a metaphor. It's strategy. Don't run from pain, study it. Don't curse your struggle, shape it. The people who rise highest are those who stop wishing for easy and start preparing for impact. You can't control the storm, but you can become the one who walks through it and comes out stronger. That's the real victory. Victims chase validation. They want to be liked, praised, seen, applauded. Their worth depends on the opinions of others. One bad comment and their confidence crumbles. But victors? They validate themselves. They don't need cheers to know they're on the right path. They move in silence, build in silence, and grow in silence. Because they know the loudest success comes from quiet discipline. Stoic philosopher Seneca said, the man who is content to be what he is does not need applause. Victors don't beg the world to notice them, they become people worth noticing. It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. They've spent enough time waiting for someone to say, you're good enough. Now they decide they are. Think of an artist who creates not for likes, but for the love of creation. Or a person who trains not for compliments, but for self-mastery. That's real strength. You can't build a strong life on weak foundations, and the approval of others is the weakest of all. One day they love you, the next day they cancel you. Victors stop playing that game. They walk their own path, eyes forward, heart steady. Not because the world clapped, but because they finally did it for themselves. Winners master one of the most underrated powers, attention. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Victims fixate on problems, drama, what they lack, who wronged them. And guess what? Their life becomes a loop of pain. Because whatever you feed grows. Victors, on the other hand, train their focus. They choose their thoughts like warriors choose weapons. They know that the mind left unmanaged becomes a cage. So they guide it. Toward purpose. Toward growth. Toward action. Stoics believe that your attention is sacred, and they were right. You may not control what happens around you, but you always control what you give your energy to. You wake up in the morning. You can scroll mindlessly and compare yourself to fake lives, or you can write your goals. Move your body. Read something that sharpens your mind. One drains you. The other builds you. The choice seems small, but repeated daily, it shapes your entire existence. For example, someone obsessed with their past will stay there. Someone focused on building their future will arrive there. Attention is power. Train it and you become powerful. Ignore it and life chooses your path for you. Gratitude is a weapon. Quiet, simple, but sharp. Victims overlook it. They live in lack, always needing more money, more love, more recognition. Their focus is on what's missing, and so they always feel empty. But victors? They train their eyes to see what is. They wake up and say, I have breath. I have today. I have a chance. That shift from scarcity to appreciation creates inner strength. Stoic philosophy teaches us to be grateful not just for the good, but for the challenge, for the discomfort, for the fire that shapes us. Seneca wrote, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. A victor doesn't wait for perfection to feel peace. They choose peace right here, right now. For example, two people lose their job. One spirals, collapses, curses the world. The other sees it as a chance to restart, to evolve, to learn. Same loss, different lens. Gratitude is the lens that transforms struggle into strength. It doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means choosing to not be owned by it. Because when you're thankful, you stop chasing and you start building. Not from bitterness, but from clarity. From power. Victims crave ease. They want the shortcut, the hack, the fastest route with the least effort. But ease doesn't shape greatness. It softens it, weakens it. Real growth comes from friction, from the grind, the repetition, the discomfort. Victors know this. They stop asking, how do I make this easier, and start asking, how do I become stronger? That shift is everything. The gym doesn't get lighter, you get stronger. Life doesn't get simpler, you get sharper. Stoics embraced hardship. Epictetus said, difficulties show a person's character. So when trouble comes, think of it as training. Victors don't fear the weight, they lift it. They don't pray for perfect conditions, they prepare for the storm. For example, someone wants to improve their health. A victim starts, misses a week, and says, this isn't working. A victor misses a week, then starts again. Not because they feel like it, but because they said they would. That consistency, that resolve, that quiet war against their own weakness, that is how strength is born. You don't need life to be easy. You need to become unyielding. And that happens only through resistance. True strength is shown through forgiveness. And this is where many get it wrong. Victims believe that holding on to anger gives them power, that by staying bitter, they somehow stay strong. But it's the opposite. Bitterness is a chain. It keeps you connected to the pain, to the person, to the past. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. Victors understand this. They don't forgive because it was okay. They forgive because they refuse to be held hostage by something they can't change. They take their power back. The Stoics taught us to focus only on what we can control, and the past is not one of those things. But your response to it is. Someone hurt you? That's on them. But you carrying it forever, that's on you. Think of two people betrayed by someone they trusted. One keeps replaying the betrayal for years. Their joy fades, trust dies, life shrinks. The other processes it, learns from it, and lets go. They don't forget, but they choose peace over poison. That's what victors do. Forgiveness isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's about deciding, I deserve peace more than I want revenge. And in that choice, you win. Victors practice brutal self-honesty. No sugarcoating. No soft lies. Just raw truth. Victims, on the other hand, lie to themselves constantly. I'm doing my best, it's not my fault, there's nothing more I can do. But deep down they know. They know they could have shown up earlier, focused harder, pushed one step further. Self-deception feels safe, but it kills growth. You can't change what you won't admit. Victors strip away the illusions. They stand in front of the mirror and ask, where am I playing small? Where am I making excuses? It stings. But that sting is where transformation begins. Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius kept journals not for praise, but for self-correction. He wrote, at every moment, keep a sturdy mind ready to do what's right. Victors follow the same path. They question themselves not to shame, but to sharpen. Did I give my all today? Or did I coast? Did I show integrity, or just perform it? This kind of honesty builds trust with yourself. And that trust is everything. Because when you stop lying to yourself, you become someone you can rely on. Someone solid. Someone real. That's where real confidence is born. Victors find meaning in suffering. That doesn't mean they enjoy pain, it means they use it. Victims see pain as punishment. Something unfair, cruel, random. But victors see it as a forge. A classroom. A mirror. The Stoics believed that hardship was not to be feared, but embraced as a tool for shaping the soul. Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person who they are. And it's true. Pain reveals. It strips away illusions, comforts, distractions, and asks, who are you, really? Imagine losing everything, your job, your relationship, your health. A victim collapses under the weight. A victor feels it fully, then rises new. They don't deny the pain. They honor it. They let it teach. Because they understand, rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. Some of the strongest people on earth didn't grow in sunshine. They grew in fire. Not because they were special, but because they refused to waste the wound. Victors don't ask, why me? They ask, what now? And in that question, they find power, purpose, direction. You don't need a pain-free life. You need a meaningful one. And meaning is often born from the places that hurt the most. Real strength is built daily, not in grand gestures, but in quiet repetition. Victims look for the breakthrough moment, the magic fix, the instant transformation. But victors? They build. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. Discipline, not drama. That's the difference. Today, you wake up and drink water instead of soda, that's a brick. You take the stairs instead of the elevator, brick. You speak up when you'd usually stay silent, brick. And day by day, you build a fortress. Not of arrogance, but of integrity. A place inside yourself where you can stand tall. No matter who leaves. No matter what fails. No matter how hard the wind blows. Stoic wisdom reminds us that no one can take your character unless you give it away. So don't. Build it, guard it, honor it. Strength isn't loud. It's not about muscles or titles. It's about keeping promises to yourself when no one is watching. That's how victors rise. They do the work in silence and let the results speak. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. You need consistency. That's the difference between a phase and a foundation. Victors choose the latter. Every single day. Now you stand at the edge of a choice. Stay the same or rise. Keep repeating the story of pain or start writing a new one. No one can choose for you. Not your past. Not your family. Not your fear. Only you. The victim in you will scream, it's too late, you're too broken, you'll fail again. But the fire in you, the one you felt growing with every word, it knows better. It knows you were never meant to stay small. That voice? That's your true self. And it's tired of being silent. Stoics believed that the soul is strengthened not in comfort, but in challenge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And now it's your turn. Not to talk, not to dream, but to move. The moment you decide, this ends with me, that's the moment the path appears. No fanfare, no finish line, just one quiet step and then another. From victim to victor, from weakness to power, from excuse to ownership. The journey won't be easy, but the destination? You. Strong, clear, unshakable. Finally, you. If something in you awakened, don't let it fade. Don't just scroll away. Take one action today that your future self will thank you for. And if this message hit deep, like, comment, and subscribe. Because this is just the beginning. If we reach 5,000 likes, I'll release a new video how to build unshakable discipline and become mentally untouchable step by step. Until then, drop a comment below. Are you still playing the victim, or are you ready to win?